Every MMORPG has classes that fit archetypes we've come to expect in the genre. Sword and shield users, fire mages, necromancers, and assassins are some of the classics. Final Fantasy XIV is no different in that regard, but their take on the typical rogue goes beyond backstabs and fast attacks. Today we're going to talk about the Ninja, a damage dealer that utilizes dual daggers in typical rogue fashion, but they're also masters of ninjutsu. Now let's get started. The Ninja gains most of its strength from a powerful ninjutsu buff called Huton. It reduces your weapon skill recast delay or global cooldown by 15%, and your auto attack delay by 15%. Before the 4.0 Stormblood update, this ability was a buff that you would see on your status bar, but now it's part of your job gauge. At level 62, the Ninja unlocks the second component of its job gauge, the Ninki gauge. Your Ninki abilities are high damaging attacks that fit simply and naturally with the other actions of the job. You generate 6 Ninki with every auto attack, and at level 66, you gain a trait that allows Mug to generate 30 Ninki. Your Ninki related abilities are on screen now, but we'll talk more about them later. Lastly, the Ninja has support abilities geared toward controlling enmity or threat. Shadewalker transfers a portion of your enmity generated to another target, while Smokescreen reduces a target's enmity generation. Both skills have long cooldowns, but they're great for helping tanks stabilize threat in boss battles, or even large dungeon pulls. You should use them because there's absolutely no reason not to. Before we dive into the good stuff, the melee damage dealers in this game have weapon skills that have additional effects or deal increased damage based on the position they're used in. For the Ninja, Armor Crush, Aeolian Edge, and Trick Attack are your 3 positional skills. Armor Crush and Aeolian Edge deal increased damage when used from the flank and rear respectively. Armor Crush has an additional combo bonus of extending the duration of your Huton buff. This bonus will get applied regardless of position. The most important positional for the Ninja is on Trick Attack. When executed from the rear, it applies a vulnerability debuff to the target hit that increases their damage taken by 10% for 10 seconds. If you don't hit the target in the butt, you don't get the debuff and the skill does significantly less damage. Every job in Final Fantasy XIV has a set rotation of skills they can follow to deal optimal damage. For the Ninja, you have one attack chain that branches into 3 different combo finishers. Your goal is to end your combo with a specific finisher based on your status and the status of the target you're fighting. Shadowfang is almost always your first combo finisher. It applies a slashing resist down debuff which increases the damage the enemy takes from all of your attacks. It also applies a powerful damage over time effect. If your Huton buff is active, you can fit 2 combos in before you need to end a combo with Shadowfang. Armor Crush is used to extend the duration of Huton. You don't have to extend the duration until it's nearly expired, but to be on the safe side, finish a combo with Armor Crush if the duration of Huton is 30 seconds or less. Finally, if your dots are ticking and your pinwheel is spinning, use Aeolian Edge. The unique mechanics for the Ninja are its Mudra and Ninjutsu. Unlike other classes that cast spells in a single button press, the Ninja has to execute combinations to use their ninjutsu. There are 7 different ninjutsu spells that have 2 possible combinations for execution each. It sounds like a lot to manage, but with enough time you'll remember them all and the situations they're good for. Fuma Shuriken and Raiten are for single targets. The difference between the two being Fuma Shuriken only requires 1 Mudra to activate and deals less damage, while Raiten requires 2 Mudra and deals more. There's always going to be a debate between ninja mains about which is more effective. Casting Raiten generally causes you to clip your global cooldown, meaning a few milliseconds will go by when your character isn't taking an action. But does its extra 120 potency make up for that lost time? That's for an expert mathematician to decide and tell us in the comments. Keiten and Doten are for area damage and they follow the same trend as Fuma and Raiten. Keiten deals less damage but only requires 2 Mudra to activate. Doten is a damage over time ground target effect that deals more total damage, but it only deals damage while the enemies are within the area of effect. You'll have to decide during a fight whether a quick burn is better than a slow earthly boil. The final 2 and most important ninjutsu are Huton and Suiten. Huton is your main class mechanic, which we mentioned earlier. It provides a 15% attack speed buff that reduces your global cooldown and auto attack delay by 15%. Suiton is a low damage ninjutsu that allows you to use trick attack without the effect of hide. And that is what makes the ninja one of the most valuable damage dealers in the game. Trick attack increases the target's damage taken by 10% for 10 seconds. This means you and all the other members of your group will deal more damage for the duration. Using trick attack as part of your opener and every subsequent 60 seconds is key to you dealing your maximum damage and helping your group push their damage higher as well. Now here's where things get a bit tricky. Because Suiton is a 3 mudra ninjutsu, it will cause some very serious global cooldown clipping, which is something you try to avoid, but thankfully there are ways around that. The boss fights in Final Fantasy XIV almost always have moments where you'll be forced to move away from the boss. If you're lucky, you can line up the Suiton cast with that movement. When that's not an option, you can use Tenchi Jin, your level 70 Ninki ability, as a setup. The last thing to note about Trick Attack is that its cooldown lines up with some of your other abilities, namely I never learned how to say this, Bhavakakra and Dream Within a Dream, and so make sure to save them for maximum damage. Now that we're coming to the end of the video, it's time to talk about the opener, or the chain of moves you'll do in the first 30 or so seconds of a fight. The hide ability received a nice quality of life addition in patch 4.0. It resets the recast timer for your mudra and ninjutsu, so before a boss fight, you can apply Huton, activate hide, and be ready to start a fight with Suiton. The opener I've had the best experiences with is on screen now, but with the ninja, there's a lot more room for flexibility. Delaying your trick attack until before your first Aeolian Edge will yield some massive damage, but if you do that, your trick attack might not line up with some of your party members. This isn't something you have to worry much about in a dungeon with a group of random players, but if you're in a static raid group doing Omega Savage, then it's definitely worth discussing with your group beforehand. Last but certainly not least are the role actions. Since the ninja is a support-oriented damage dealer, I like to take Feint and Goad. With good timing, Feint will reduce the damage of a powerful physical tank buster. Goad is great for physical DPS classes that are doing their area damage rotations. The other selections are mostly preference and situation based, so have some fun and experiment. And there you go. Final Fantasy XIV's ninja is a very dynamic feeling class despite being in a game that's designed around set rotations with limited customization. The mudra and ninjutsu system coupled with the ninki skills you learn between 60 and 70 make every fight feel exciting and mechanically demanding. On that note, the name of the game is Final Fantasy XIV, the name of the channel is iBluairJgR Gaming for Comedy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, because if you do, I will remember you when Judgment Day comes, and believe me, that's going to be very important. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.